Hello, hello. It is Thursday again, and I am so glad to have you guys with me. Oh, hang on a second here. Got my phone talking right back at me. Not what I wanted. And I just screwed that whole thing up. Okay, so I like to keep my phone up here in case I lose out. There we go. On my comments. So there we go. I'm all fixed now. Okay. Hey, Becca. Nice to see you. So glad you're here and you survived another week. I'm glad to see it. So what's new? The days are catching up to me. And I have so much to do. So I think we're probably just going to work on today's project and call it quits because I've got a whole bunch of other videos that I need to make, and I've got some due outs with Altenew, and yeah, I just need some catch up time. So I'm trying madly to do that, and I'm getting there. It's just not quite. So the work never ends. I don't know why. Anyway, hey, glad to see you guys. Hello, Miss Tamp. Nice to see you. Glad you're out there. So if you stopped out on the blog today, you know that our project for Tic Tac Toe challenge is up, and that goes until next Tuesday. So if you want to join in on that challenge, you can check out the challenge board from Claire and create a project and link up with us over at tictactoechallenge.com, tictactoechallenge.com, if I didn't say that right. Anyway, so that's going on. And let's see, earlier this week we had, a washi tape release with Altenew. And, I got to show you the one card that's like raving. Everyone is raving over it. Okay, so this is the card, and I love it. I love it, love it, love it. It's like on all their promotional stuff because it's such a cute card. Anyway, I got a comment from a gal today, and she said, I love your cards so much, but I'm on keto right now, and that really makes me want to have a cupcake. I thought, that's terrible, but awesome at the same time. It's just a paper cupcake. It's okay. So anyway, yeah, so that went live, and then heads up, tomorrow is the Paint a Flower release. It's the 22nd of the month, and it's gorgeous. So you'll enjoy that. So anyway, that's kind of what's going on. And I'm going to flip down to my hands. Yay. And I knew this was going to be popping up sooner than later. This is one of the new stamp sets that I shared with you guys last week from my scrapbook.com haul, the Honeybee Up and Away stamp set, and all the dies. Oh my gosh, all the dies that this comes with. So yeah, I was totally thrilled that I was going to be able to use this one right away. And yeah, I totally agree, Becca. Paper carbs are the best. I mean, unless you really want some chocolate, for a while there was scratch and sniff embossing powder, and it didn't really catch on for very long. It maybe was really hard to make. I don't know. But anyway, I know that was out there for a while, and that would have been kind of fun to have, like scratch and sniff chocolate and things like that. But anyway, so this was the card that I made for Tic Tac Toe challenge, and I picked the middle row, and the middle row was square, so the card is square, and outdoors, and obviously we're outdoors, and blue, so I've got the blue sky. So I figured that one works. So I did some no line watercoloring with this, and I love the way that it turned out. So this is going to take a little while today, and this is what we're going to work on. So hello, Sue. So nice to see you. I'm glad you joined us. All right. So has anyone out there tried no line watercoloring? And if so, what were your results? Okay, so I'm going to start. I need to stamp all of these so that I get my no line bits. So I just have some watercolor paper. This is the Altenew A2 sized watercolor paper, and it's okay. I'm trying to use it up, to be honest with you. So I'm going to do that, and then I guess I need this little piece too to do the little bunting on the balloon. Okay, so Diana, you haven't, but you want to because it scares you. Totally get that. Becca says it's on her sometime list. Sue said you tried it once and didn't like it. It was a while ago. Okay, so I am using scrapbook.com's Fog hybrid ink, and I'm using this because it is super, super light. And because it's a hybrid, I'm not going to lose the lines as I add water to my project. So that's a good thing because I want to be able to see the lines as I go, right? And this is so light that like I can barely see it right now. So I'm going to stamp it twice, maybe even 3 times so you guys can really see it. And I'm not really concerned about seeing it later. Once it's done, you won't see any of these lines. I have tried using other colors from Altenew, some of their crisp inks to do my background with, but sometimes it bleeds and you don't want that. So a hybrid ink is really good because it's not going to move with any water. Okay. That's pretty good. I'm going to do one more time and see if I can get this really dark for you guys. And I might try zooming in my webcam today to see if I can get you a little closer and see how that looks. It might break everything, so we'll find out. Okay, so that's really good. Okay, so you can't see that. There, you can see it now. So I've got my gray lines on there, and that's actually still light enough that I'm not too worried about that at all, but that'll be good. Okay, and then I need to do some clouds. Now for today, I thought I would just do a regular A2 sized card because I can. Instead of cutting it down to the square. The square is cute and all, but the square itself, this one is 4 1/4 by 4 1/4, so it would fit in a regular A2 size envelope, just have a little strip on the side. So, okay, so Sue asks, what's the difference between hybrid ink and ordinary ink? Okay, so ordinary, there really is no ordinary ink, but I guess what you would consider an ordinary ink would be like Altenew crisp dye inks, but you hear the word that's in there, dye, D-Y-E. So that means that it is a water-based dye, which also means then that it's water soluble. So when you add water to it on the watercolor paper, it's going to move. And if it's made up of like different colors, yeah, exactly, dye ink. If it's made up of different colors, like black is sometimes like has greens in it or reds in it or greens and reds in it or greens and purples, like it'll split and you can see those 2 colors when that happens. I have a really good video on swatching your blacks and why you should do it. But yeah, so that's a dye ink. A hybrid ink is a water, it's kind of a water base. It just says on here, it's an all-purpose craft ink. It blends the best of pigment and dye inks into one. So basically, it has the liquidiness of a dye ink. So, it's clear, transparent, but it's more permanent like some pigment inks are. Although we know now that pigment inks aren't always permanent. Some of them are water-based too, right? So... But most hybrid inks are really good for watercoloring with, like for making the lines, because they're not really going to move. Okay, I just wanted to get, since I'm doing a full panel, I wanted to get more clouds on here. And I totally forgot to grab my towel, so I'll have to do that in a second here. And then we'll try zooming in and we'll see how that works. Okay, I want to get one more cloud maybe. Done with that one. So I'm making sure to like stamp off the page so that it looks like a piece of designer paper with a pattern on it that you just cut up. Okay, there we go. That's good. Okie doke. So that's all the stamping I need to do. Okay. I don't know what oh. That's weird and interesting. So that's from my, you see that on there? That's from my magnet, from my little piece of washi tape on there. The green is coming off. That's weird. Well, I guess I'll have to replace that. Okay, so I need okie dokie. Rag, I've got my palette. I'm done with my fog. Okay, so let's see if I can. Okay, so warning, this may cut me off, but hopefully it won't. So, okay, I'm gonna go to here. Okay, so that's as far as it's gonna zoom, but hey, that worked. Does that look okay to you guys? Awesome. Okay, so I got a little zoom in action going today so we can be a little closer to action. Okay, so I got water. I'm using my Altenew. Oh, I picked up the wrong inks. Metallics would be cool. Okay, so the purple one, my Altenew Artist Paint watercolors. Okay. And these are my favorite brushes. These are the Transon brushes that I got on Amazon. They are goat hair and I love them. Okay, so for the background, I'm going to use like the biggest one to start with. And then I always just have water in a little dropper thing here because that's easier to get water into my palette for sure. Okay, so I'm using like all the blues down on this end. So I've got like Cherry Blossom, which ends up being like a pinkish red, shades of purple, Lapis Lazuli, Deep Blue Seas, and then on the other side, I can't read them. Okay, so Crystal Water, Cool Summer Nights, and Deep Blue Seas. Okay, so all the blues and such. And actually, I'm probably going to go into a little bit of black towards the end. Okay. So you guys can almost see the lines in there, which is fantastic. Okay, cool. Well, I'm glad I tried the zoom because that worked really well. To be honest with you, I don't remember exactly the colors that I used for the background. I'm pretty sure it was Deep Blue Seas. All right, and yeah, definitely was Deep Blue Seas. Okay, so I'm putting this down with lots of water. And I just want to make sure that I outline the clouds. And right now I just want to make sure that I don't let anything dry up. Because I want the ink to really move around a lot. All right. So as long as I keep this wet, I can get my edges all the way out. Okay, so I'll go around my next cloud. So lots of moving of the paper so I can get into these little spaces. So see, if I had done the little 4 1/4 inch piece, I'd be almost done by now. But this background really doesn't take too long. So I'm kind of letting all of the watercolor do the work for me. And it's, well, hello, Iggy. What's going on? That was my cat. If you didn't catch it, he has stories today. So anyway, as I was saying, I'm just kind of letting the water do the work for me and move the ink around in kind of a billowy way. So like see like this, I need to get rid of these lines here. So I'll just add some water and it'll help all of that move around a little bit. And that'll keep me from getting all those hard edges. And you see here how it's kind of like pooling up. I just grab it with my brush and I'm wiping it off on my towel here, and it'll get rid of that extra. And that I will just continue to move around. All right, let's get some more blue in there. All right. Oh, so, I totally flaked on this because I got so busy. I meant to send out a newsletter about it for any of you that are on my newsletter list. If you're familiar with Hedgehog Hollow and Alexandra Stapleton Smith, she's having an event this weekend. And I think it's the 23rd and the 24th, so Saturday and Sunday. And it is basically 8 hours each day of craft. stuff, craft ideas and craft projects and things like that from a whole bunch of different people, including me. So she approached me, I don't know, I guess about 3 weeks ago and asked if I wanted to do it. And I said yes. And I created the video, and the cards are awesome. And so she's doing that this weekend, and she's calling it Hedgehog Hollow Days. And so it's this weekend. And if you go to hedgehoghhollowdays.com and you use my code Nicole10, Nicole, no H, you will get a 10% discount on the event. And it's going to be on YouTube. It's like her private membership part of YouTube, because she has enough subscribers she can have that. And yeah, it's like all weekend, and there's going to be giveaways because there's sponsors. It's very cool. So if you're interested, you're looking for something crafty to do this weekend, I think that would be pretty awesome. There's going to be some amazing designers. So Mindy Egan is doing it. Oh, Teresa, that's awesome. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you love my projects. They were a ton of fun. So Mindy Egan is doing it, and oh geez, who else? I think Corinne Wiskman, maybe. I can't even remember. So many good names out there. But yeah. Oh, Amanda from Pear Blossom Press. So very cool. All right, so I'm just trying to fix some of these. There we go. All right, so Teresa, you'll have to report back and let us know how you liked it. For sure. I will be golfing all weekend. Oh, thanks. So, yeah, I will be golfing all weekend. Wish me luck. I am not really great at golf, but on occasion I am known to win a little bit of money with my handicapped score. So, yeah. Or I may come back and be like, I'm never golfing again, because I do that too. All right. I'm just trying to get some of these dark lines out of there. I think that's pretty good. Okay, so I kind of went with the flow here, where it's darker at the top and it got lighter at the bottom. So there. And the lights really kind of wash it out, but you can really, in person, you can really see the dark to light. It's really pretty. Okay, so that's like the first part. I'm going to set this aside to dry for a little bit. I could always hit it with the heat gun too. But we can start working on some of the balloons. Okay, so let me wipe this up here. Don't give it to her. Just go yourself. Teresa, that's awesome. Or get yourself a seat and go together and have some fun. Okay, so with the balloons, when you're doing no line watercoloring, you have to work it in sections. And we kind of talked about this a couple of weeks ago when we were exploring different watercolors and I was doing some flower stuff and whatever. You have to work it in sections, right? So I'm going to use the shades of purple for the big balloon. And I might end up switching brushes because this is kind of a big brush. Yeah, I probably will. So I'm going down like 2 sizes. This is a number 2. You'll see how much smaller it is. Okay, so this was the brush we were using, and this is the brush we're going to. So small brush is good for small projects. Okay, so I kind of worked it from the outside in. And I did a wet on wet technique. So that's when you put down first. So I'm just trying to keep the water inside the line. And believe it or not, it's not too hard to do that. Okay, and then I just take some of my color and I drop it in. And it's really just going to follow the water that's already there. All right, and so like that's all I can do on the side because that's the end of that little particular rib of the balloon. Okay. So I'm going to actually flip it and do the other side. This one, the rib is slightly larger. So again, just getting that little area filled with water, and then I can drop that in and it starts to spread on its own. And then I'm just basically like pushing it around so that I get it in all the crevices. Okay. I do kind of have a little mess there. All right, so I need to skip a rib because this one isn't quite dry yet. So I'll move into the center rib here. And then drop my color in. Now I'm not making it all the way down to the bottom right now because this brush is too large for that, but I'll hit that on my next pass of color. All right. And then I'll do next one here. There's a lot of different ways that you can approach coloring these. So if you wanted to, you could just wash the whole thing with the purple and then come back in and do darker purple along the ribs to make your shadows. You could do that too. And maybe we'll do that on the next one. I'll do that one in a solid color instead of the stripes. Or I could do this one in the stripes and then the other one a solid color, and then you would see the difference. How about that? Let's do that. No, I think you asked that last time when I showed you guys all of my stuff from the stash. And no, I haven't ridden in a hot balloon, a hot air balloon, Becca, but I wanted to. Like, we lived in Northern California in Vacaville at Travis Air Force Base back in 2000. And we would always see them in Napa when we would go out there. And I always thought that would be so awesome to like take a flight in the valley. But as of late, with like all the accidents, and then my husband and I watched the movie Aeronaut on it's an Amazon Prime movie. It was so good. Freaked me out though. I don't think I could ever go in a hot air balloon now. I don't think so. Have you, Becca, have you been in a hot air balloon? Okay, so I'm going to let this one sit. And then for the smaller one, let's do it where I cover it all in one color, and then I'll put in the highlights. Okay, so I'm just gonna, or shadows as it were, actually. So by the time I get this one all wet and covered in purple, then the first one will be ready for some pink. Okay, so this one is completely soaked with water. And then I can just fill it in. With the wash of purple. And then once it's dry a little bit, we'll be able to come back and put in shadows and stuff. Okay, so okay, yeah. I might still be persuaded to do it. I don't know. It would just have to really be the right circumstance. Like maybe it would have to be a spur of the moment thing, like where we were somewhere and they had them and I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And I just, jump in and not even think about it and go. But yeah, so my husband and I, when we were in Las Vegas for my brother's wedding quite a few years ago, he got us a helicopter trip into the Grand Canyon. And so it took us from the Las Vegas Strip, from the Clarendon Airport or whatever that's called. And it took us into the basin of the Grand Canyon. And we actually dropped into the canyon, not like the big touristy part, but a different section of it. And we dropped into the canyon and we had like sandwiches and champagne and stuff and got to explore just a little bit. And then they brought us back at sunset. And then we went down the strip. And a week later, that particular company had a helicopter accident and all the people died. So I will never do another helicopter trip again. One is enough. It was amazing. I mean, I have some gorgeous pictures from it and all that, but I don't need to do it again. So yes, it was romantic until the next week, all the people on that same trip died. So yeah, it was an amazing trip though. Okay, so one is ready for stripes, and then this one is going to be ready for some shadows. And what you can see is that you see how you can still see the lines. That's just what happens with the ink. It always just kind of grabs the color a little bit and you have the lines. Now, if you use a more water-soluble ink, sometimes you don't get as clear of a line, but with the hybrid inks, you get the line, which is nice. So it's, yes, kind of no line watercoloring, but you still have lines. So, Teresa, are you in Ohio? Are you in Akron? Right, Akron? Is that where it's at? Because I'm from Ohio originally. Okay, so this guy, I'm actually going to start putting in the darker colors. So that way, we talked about this too a couple of weeks ago, like how do you keep your blends from not getting that funky line? Well, this is how you do it. It's still wet. And you try your darndest to just kind of keep things flowing. Okay, so I'm working on those outer ribs. And I'm basically just putting a second layer of the color. And I haven't like diluted it or added anything darker to it. I just grabbed what I've been working with. Okay, so when you think about a balloon, oh, California, they have a blimp there. That's cool. So like a balloon, it has those ribs. So each of these is kind of rounded, and then the whole balloon is rounded. So there's kind of two things you need to think of. So you need to think of shadows here at the lines where the ribs happen, and then shadows at the top and the bottom where the whole balloon is round. Okay, so that's just two different aspects of shadowing, right? So I'm kind of doing a flick stroke. Did you see that? Like I would do with a Copic marker. So if I flick from the bottom up, I'm going to get a shadow. Yeah. And it's going to look pretty natural because everything is still a little damp. So it's going to blend in. All right. And then I need a little more purple here. Same thing from the top down. Just some flicky strokes. I don't know about the ink on 3 no line ink. I bet you it might be the same thing. I would look and see if that ink on 3 ink is a hybrid ink. It might be. All right, so I've got the top and the bottom for the shadowing. Okay, but I need to get some in the ribs here. And basically what I'm going to do is on the left side, I'm going to go for more of a shadow on the left. And just stick pretty close to the rib. And then on the right, I'm going to go on the right. And in the center, I kind of have to do both sides. So really, you're just kind of getting it everywhere. It's just a matter of where, like in accordance to the line, whether it's on the left side or the right side of the line. Right, so starting to get some definition there. Okay. And now I'm just kind of I'm going to smooth out that line a little bit. So that way I don't get those dry lines when it dries. So just water from here, just a little bit on the brush, not a lot. Like I'm basically taking it in here and then wiping it off on my cloth and just trying to soften those lines a little bit. All right, we will come back and do just a little bit more detail work. I wonder, we probably could do it now because it's not terribly wet. Okay, so right now this is basically all purple on purple on purple. So we need to do something to the purple to really give it some oomph. So I'm going to add just the littlest, tiniest bit of black. To dull out the purple. Okay, so I just realized you can't see that. So this is the regular purple, and then this is the purple with the black in it. And you can see that it's got just a little bit more of a dull shade to it. And so this I'm going to grab a smaller brush yet and really get into the detail line. So super, super tiny brush. super detailed. This is the brush we were using. This is the brush we're going to. See, there you go. It's a hybrid ink. Okay. Mystery solved. So it's the same thing. Okay, so I'm going to take this muted purple and definitely get this side rib here, especially on that outside edge. And this is like putting on liquid eyeliner. Just a nice thin stroke. And trust me, I'm not really good at something like that. My eyes don't work well with big eyeliner. So I don't really normally do that, but I can do that with a brush on my project here. No problem. And then I'm going to grab the ribs themselves. And definitely way down here where everything comes together. And maybe just a little bit at the top too. All right, so in this case, I really didn't mind so much that those ink lines were showing through because I'm using them as a guide to get my detail lines in place. You see how that's like really helping it pop out? I don't know that I necessarily have a steady hand. There's just enough water on here that when I put it down, it makes it look like I have a steady hand. I don't know. Maybe I do. Well, thank you very much. I think part of it's the brushes too, because these being a real hair brushes instead of synthetic, just the way that that grabs the water and it lays down on the card, I think it makes a huge difference. Okay, so getting into our end rib over here. And you know, okay, so another thing, Becca, is that it's watercolor, right? So it's not gonna have like perfect lines. So yeah, I have a steady-ish hand, but it's not like perfection. I had an uncle that used to do pinstriping on cars for a living, freehand. I mean, nobody does that anymore. So yeah, I'm not that good. All right, so that's looking pretty good. Actually, I think I need more of a shadow here. There. Okay, and then it's got, oh, I guess I need like a little bit of a brown for the little basket. It does look like a purple line. It's a shallot. There. I love shallots. Those are so yummy. Okay. So there we go. All right, so this one is dry. I'm going to go back to my larger brush here. And we'll go into the cherry blossom, which despite what it looks like, it's actually pink. Hello, so nice to see you. Thanks for joining. Miranda, why didn't you tell me you were out there? All you secret people, lurkers. Okay, my water's dirty now, but I don't care because this is going to be, actually it's not coming out too bad. This is going to be pink anyway. So glad to see some familiar names out there. Well, and of course, everyone that's been joining me for the past couple of weeks. I appreciate it. This is just water. It's just a water dropper. So I can drop it into my inkwells. And it says H2O because I have one that has alcohol in it. Rubbing alcohol, not drinking alcohol. Hey, so Miranda, you're spying on me. You're so funny. Miranda, Multiplicity Crafts out there, she's been doing some really great Bible journaling lately out on her Instagram. I'll give you a shout out for that because it looks really cool. All right. So that one and okay, so as I'm doing this, I got to know now for those of you that mentioned at the top of our time together that it was something that you had tried or something that you wanted to try. What do you think now that you're watching me do this? Do you think you could do no line watercoloring? And if not, what kind of barriers do you have to that? Just confidence, or is there something that I could show you that would help? Because I want you guys to be able to do this too. It's fun. I turn on a TV show and I just sit there and I can paint. And, you know, I say this a lot. It goes through an ugly duckling phase. So there's always a time when you're like, oh, I don't know about this. You just have to get past it. And then there's always something beautiful on the other side. Yeah, Miss Tamp, it can be. So I guess when you're working on projects that have lines, you're still putting in like shadows and shading and things like that. So in that regard, it's no different. You just have the lines that really tell you, oh, do the embossed lines first. Yes. Okay. So definitely that's a different beast altogether. So yeah, if you're starting with the embossed lines, so that way your water stays in its little space, then yeah, that's like training wheels. Although it's okay, so in a way it's training wheels because it keeps all of your color contained within the embossed lines, right? But in another way, it is a technique. It's a look. So I still like the look of something that is embossed with watercolor because you can get some really neat effects with it, like the way that the water and the color pools around the embossing, and sometimes it pulls away from it, and you just get some really neat looks with that. So um, even though you might think it's a beginner thing, it's really just a different technique. So yes, you can take that approach that it's a beginner thing and then move away from that and do, black lines. So that way you feel like the black lines are they're easier to see, and then they're helping you to get your ink up to the line and not go over it and that kind of thing. And that would be like the next thing that you would practice. So having just the black lines allows you to understand how you have to work a project. Like you have to do it in segments. You can't do adjoining pieces because they'll bleed into each other, right? So that gets you to that lesson basically. And then after that, you can try the no line where you're really just dependent on your brush skill to be able to make the lines and all that kind of stuff. But here's the thing. This balloon, right, is pink and purple, and so they go well together. I just had a little bit of pink that was bleeding over into the purple, and I don't know if you noticed that, but I just took my brush and I went over it and I blended it right in. So sometimes it's the project that you choose. Doing something like this where your colors are harmonious and it's easier to blend them if they happen to go over the line is a good option too. Or do something where it's solid like this and you're just practicing getting in the shadows and the detail lines. Does that make sense? Okay. Hopefully that's helpful. Okay. So this is kind of like first step on this one. And I actually kind of ended up getting some shading in here, which is fine. Just the way that the ink went down. Okay. So now that I've got this guy done, it's very similar to what I did with this one. I'm just going to go in and get some more of the purple and a little bit darker and just start working in shadows. Okay. I thought this brush would be okay, but on this little end, it's just a little big. All right, so we heard from Miss Tamp. Who else has been thinking about no-line watercoloring and what's keeping you from it? Don't be shy. We're all here to learn. Miranda, you do a lot of in your Bible journaling. Is that watercoloring? Hey, no worries, Paula. Glad you're here. Oh, with skin tones. Skin tones in general are hard. So yeah, do you have any tips that you would give people for your no line watercoloring? How you like to do it? Do you do something similar to what I'm doing, or do you have a different approach? So I think that's the cool thing about crafting is that we all know the gist of a technique, but your approach to it might be completely different than someone else's, right? And that's okay because there's like no wrong way to do it. Yeah, oh my gosh, like, I remember working on some projects where I didn't work in segments, and it turns into a hot mess. Sometimes if I wanna work faster, I have to use my heat gun to dry things. Hey, so Miranda, put out some links for us so that people can see your Bible journaling, YouTube or Insta, whatever. And I'm glad you're getting a few minutes away from your baby girl. I'm sure she's precious, but quarantine and all. You need a couple mom minutes, yeah. All right, so this one I'm kind of doing a little differently. Like the purple is dry already, right? So when I'm doing my shadowing here, the lines are much more pronounced. And I'm okay with that. Like sometimes I really like that look. So, just whatever floats your boat. Oh, very good. I bet they're happy to have her. All right. Okay, so I saw in here. Oh, so Teresa, you said you're going to try it. Um, yeah. So when you do, um, share it out and share it out on Facebook and tag me, or Instagram and tag me. I'd love to see the results. Or if you have questions along the way, you can PM me and ask. All right, so I've got some good shading in with the purple. Oh, Paula, watercolor card. Okay, so today I'm using the Altenew watercolor card. And yes, I know I'm an Altenew like brand ambassador and stuff. I do design work for them. It's interesting. I don't know that I would say it's my favorite. The A2 stuff, which is what I'm using right now, and I'll pull the packaging in a minute here, is a blend. It's cotton and not cotton. So I don't know what that means it is, but it's a synthetic, I guess. And it's interesting. The color moves really easily on it, but it also has like a tendency to beat up a little bit at first until it's really soaked in. So that's what really makes it interesting. Okay, so what other card would I recommend? Because I didn't really actually get to that. I think a decent option is Strathmore. I've used that for a long time. It's just the stuff you'd find at Michael's. It works decent. It's a cold press, so it has like texture to it. Although I do, so then I also have hot press watercolor paper, which is by Arches, and I really like Arches. Yes, absolutely, Miss Tam. So this is like 100 and this is probably like 120 pound, maybe, or 110 pound. I'll have to look and see if the packaging says. The Strathmore is 140 pound. It's really heavy. And I have used like the Canson 90 pound, but it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't take a lot of water. Which is the same thing, like if you use mixed media paper, you can use mixed media paper for watercoloring for sure. It takes water decently, nicely actually. But again, if you're doing like super heavy water techniques, you may not have a great result. I've never used the distress watercolor paper, Heidi. I think for me personally, I like a smooth watercolor paper. So even though this is a cold press, it's very smooth, which I guess is a nice attribute of it. Which is why I tend to use the Arches hot press watercolor paper, because that's usually a smoother paper. Okay, so I'm going to go into my black here and into my, ooh, that was way too much black. Way too much. All right, and get some real detail in here. And instead of doing like, I don't know if I'm going to add any black to the pink. I'm just going to use the purple to get these ribs in place. So we'll see how that turns out. Then we'll go from there. So since it's the purple, I'm trying to stay more on the inside here with the purple rib instead of going on to the pink side. Let's see. How do you use Canson? Yeah, that's another one that you can get from like Michael's and stuff. That one's economical for sure, and I've used it as well. They're 140 pound cold press is good. It's not as doesn't have as much texture as the Strathmore, which is nice. Sometimes I really like the texture though, because that's what I'm looking for in a project. So that's another reason to have like some different watercolor papers, because some of them have more texture to it. And that's what you want, right? I said textured look sometimes. Yeah, Heidi, I totally agree. And you know what? The other thing is that like a lot of the work that I do is for cards. And so I figure a Canson or a Strathmore is fine for card making. because sadly, I don't know where my cards are going to end up after the recipient gets them. I mean, most times I would hope that they would keep them at least for a little bit. But you know, a lot of work goes into these, so. Anyway, so, you know, this episode is episode number 9. I've been doing this for 9 weeks already. Holy moly. And I was thinking next week will be week 10. So I thought I would do some giveaways. And I'm just going to give away some cards that I've been making. Let me know what you think. Heidi, this is the Up, Up, and Away stamp set from Honeybee. This one. See how, like, this goes back to the discussion we had last week. This is cute, not cutesy. And because of that, like, I can see doing something with no line that makes it look romantic or artsy or whatever you want to call it. It just looks totally different. Okay, I'm going to do just a little bit of black and then pink. All right. So I did put some black in the pink here, and I'm just going down the other side. Actually, I could have put purple in the pink. That would have worked well too, instead of the black. Oh, and so speaking of giveaways, don't forget that I've got my Sketch Starters Challenge over on my blog. And it runs through the end for a $15 Altenew gift certificate. Yeah. I don't know how far down this is supposed to go. I think that's down a little further than it was supposed to be. Something got kind of wonky over here. I'm not sure what. I will put the link. My link is, if you go to pixelmavensretreat.com, that's my blog. And then over on in the top menu bar, there's a link to Sketch Challenge. And that will get you to the Sketch Challenge. And it goes along with the sketch starter videos that I'm doing for Altenew. So it's always one of my sketches from that. Okay, so this one turned out kind of different, a little sketchy looking, but it's cool. I like it. And it will look different too once I have it cut out and everything as well. So I've got this little bunting here. And that's pretty easy. I just start off by coloring it in. Not really doing anything fancy with it. And the die that I'm going to use for this one is the smaller of the two dies. So it's actually going to cut it out like right on the line. And I may have to come back and do a little bit of touch up on it. Okay, so just a second to let that dry for hair. And then I'm coming in with the darker on this one. I didn't do that on the original one. I went kind of lighter with it. But with this little fine brush, I can make just these little lines, like that little teeny tiny line there, and give it some detail. Since this balloon has more of a sketched look to it. Okay, so Heidi, I don't know if I saw your alcohol marker colored piece. Where did you post it? And I'll have to make sure that I saw it. Was it out on the Handmade Happiness group or somewhere else? Okay. Whew. I never thought we'd be done with that. Actually, let's come back to our clouds. Okay, so on the, let me tell you what happened here. So on the sample, I ended up doing these dark blue clouds because I had a problem with the paint bleeding. The background cardstock on this is the Altenew 100% cotton, and it was bleeding, which it shouldn't have done. I don't know why it was doing that. So I'm done with that paper, and I don't think I'll be getting any more of that. So I had to do something. So I picked up, this is like Cool Summer Nights, or, oh, it's the Starry Night. So it's a really dark blue. I need a bigger brush for this one. Let's do this one. And I basically just did the same thing in reverse. I filled in the balloon or the cloud. Some more wet on wet with this one, and then just dropped the color in. All right, and then I'm going to pick up color from the center. So my brush, I'm drying it off on my towel here. And it's picking that color up. And I can come back in and just add right around the edge. And because everything is still wet, it's going to spread out. It's not going to go too far. All right, now my water's blue, so now that my water's blue, it's like doing all the work. Okay, that's cool, Heidi. Yeah, I've been contemplating like starting just a coloring practice journal, basically, so that I can practice different techniques and things and just have it something that I keep for myself instead of always having something that I'm going to be putting on a card to put, to give to someone or whatever. But I don't know with what time. I'm gonna find time to do that. Yeah, time is fleeting. That's not the half of it. It's just like time moves ridiculously fast. Speaking of time, we've already been doing this for an hour and 15 minutes. Holy moly. Um, do you guys have any requests for techniques or projects that you'd like to see me talk about? Mhm. No requests. Come on, guys. I know there's something that you want me to work on. Oh, okay. So, um, I was asking if anyone had any techniques or um, projects or things like that that they wanted me to do next week. So, like, you know, requests, taking requests. My favorite background technique, honestly, I don't know that I have one. Watercolor washes are always easy. Um, Alcohol marker backgrounds, those are fun, or alcohol ink backgrounds, I should say. Those are a ton of fun and very addictive. Oh, okay. So there's a technique that I'm doing in this weekend's Hedgehog Holidays that is unbelievable. I could share that. So you want me to do just background techniques next time? I could do that because there's a couple of different ones that I could work into the mix and we could have some fun with that. That works for me. Okay, so I'm going to cut these out real quick. And like I said, I used, so the bunting comes in two sizes. There's the larger one and then the smaller one. So you could do like an outline and then you could do another piece on the inside. I just used the smaller piece so that I would end up with like a no line bunting. It was kind of hard to line up and it didn't work out perfectly, but let me cut these out real quick. Okay. Oh. My butt is tired from sitting all day. That. technical difficulties, guys. My, oh, I know what's happening there. Oh. La la la. Okay. All right. So there. Okay, so Sue, I'm not gonna tell. I'll share it next week. Because it is so awesome. And I don't want to like give out the big secret before Hedgehog Holidays this weekend, since I know some people on the call are, or on right now, are going to be going to Hedgehog Holidays. Okay, so see how that turned out when I used the smaller of the two dyes. So it's basically like a no line. And if it was really bothering me, I could come back with some pink and like paint the white to cover that up. Okay. So this is the paper that I'm using today. It's the 50% cotton cold press. Oh, it's 140 pound. But like I said, it's super smooth for a cold press, which is the unbelievable part of it. But it's like when you put water on it, it doesn't soak in right away. It kind of beads up a little bit. So it takes just a little bit. It's not my favorite. And I'm almost done with it. So I'll use it until it's gone. Come on. All right, so next week we'll do our Festive Friday card, and I'll see if I can work a background into the Festive Friday card so that way it all kind of works together. So this little bunting is designed to like fit on here like perfectly from edge to edge. See, so adds a little detail. It is kind of easy to get it to go a little wonky, so you just have to be careful about that. And then this guy is good to go. So on my sample, right, I did the smaller and I cut it off. So since I did a full-size one here, I can do both full-size balloons, which is nice. I'm almost done with these. I don't like the round ones because then you've got to cut out the excess. I like either the hexagon shaped ones like Stampin' Ups or the square ones. All right, so the sentiment is from a Greetery stamp set. It's not from the honeybee one. The honeybee one doesn't have any sentiment. It's just the balloons. So that's that. I think the sentiment makes it look different too, you know, like, so if you put a really beautiful script on there and something, instead of something that's like playful, you end up with a different look, right? So all that work, and well, I didn't put this on a card base yet, but I will later. There. So kind of two different looks. And so I can put my sentiment down here at the bottom and pop that on a card base. And that one will be done. Ta-da! All right. So guys, next week's agenda is set. We'll do Festive Friday and we'll do some fun background techniques. I guarantee you there will be stencils included. There will be alcohol ink included. There will be ink spray included. And there will also be a surprise paper included that you might not expect. So thanks so much, Sue, for the idea because it's going to be fun. All right, so it's like 5:30, and I know sometimes we go a little longer, but I've got a billion other things to do. Not that you guys aren't important, and not that I don't love spending time with you, but I need to keep on my schedule. So I'm trying to pump out some videos and some other great content for Altenew, and got a ton going on. So I'm going to say goodbye for today, and we will meet up again next week and have a fun time. All right, so everybody stay safe. If you're in the States, enjoy your Memorial Day weekend, and I hope you all have good weather, and because we're going to have pretty good weather here too. Oh, you like it a little shorter? Yeah, I might try to stick to more like an hour and a half instead of 2 hours, because that was really long. But anyway, I'm glad you guys enjoyed it, and thank you so much for stopping by today, and I will see you again next week. Thanks, guys.